Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to today's session, part of the K-3 summer series. We are here today for session 3, which is small group instruction. And I am your facilitator today. My name is Justin Browning, and I am a facilitator at the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy, which is a part of the Atlanta Speech School. I'm also the K-3 field implementation coordinator for a project that we're doing there working in local schools. So I'm excited to be here today with you all, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we get to have around this work. So as we get started, if you will go ahead, and I am a very, very interactive presenter, and so I want to see as many faces as I can, if that's okay with you. And we're gonna go ahead and see kind of, I think, where you are. And so if you want to go ahead and answer the poll that has popped up on the screen, that will help me figure out where you are. I see we have people from Georgia, North Carolina, excellent. Excellent, from all over it looks like. Okay, take just a few more seconds to do that. While you're doing that, I want to tell you that we have a few courses coming up, or a few extra sessions coming up in this series. We have on August 5th, Assessment Part 1, and on August 12th, Assessment Part 2. So that is a course that is really just being divided into two different sections, because there's a lot of work to cover in those two courses. So we are looking forward to seeing you on August 5th and August 12th. So go ahead and go to the next slide with the Cox Campus. So today's session is focused on the small group course that you can find on the Cox Campus website. The Cox Campus website is free, and it's on-demand professional development for educators, parents, anyone who works with children as a student-facing adult that influences their reading lives. And you can access it for free, like I said. And we actually are able to offer it to you for free because of our support with the James M. Cox Foundation. So in the chat, there is a link to coxcampus.org. If you have not gone on there, please go on there, create an account, and you will be able to get started on courses right away. I think we're going to show a quick video about Cox Campus.
Really, the goal of the Rollins Center is to reach families, to reach teachers and students who have had generational lack of access to the science, to ensure that they are getting quality language and literacy experiences. And so this comes in a variety of ways. One of the ways that we do this, as you know, is our online vehicle, the Cox Campus. So the Cox Campus is free and accessible all around the country, thanks to our generous funders at the Cox Foundation.
Given our mission of educational equity from the start, and our work beyond the school through our Rollins Center for Language and Literacy and its free online Cox Campus, our work is to break the cycle of illiteracy for children whose families have experienced generational lack of access or denied access to educational opportunity. Said another way, since we know exactly what to do to eradicate illiteracy, we want to be part of a movement to make that happen, and to happen now.
Also important to note is the expansion of the Rollins Center and Cox Campus beyond Atlanta. And so really the online vehicle, Cox Campus, helps us reach other states, other countries even. And so we've been really, really blessed to be able to provide practical application of the science to families and teachers all over.
Excellent. So like I said, if you have not joined us on Cox Campus, please join that community of educators. We love connecting with people on there every day. I apologize if you hear my dogs barking, because I have an Amazon problem, and so it's probably the Amazon delivery person. So welcome again to our course. Today we have just a few goals. We want to clarify what small group instruction should be and why we should use targeted small group instruction in our classrooms. I would like for us to walk away with an understanding of materials and methods for small group instruction, and then for us to be able to share some practices that are rooted in the science of reading. So before we go any further, I want to know who these awesome people are in the room today with us. And so we have a quick poll that is going to ask two questions. One, what is your role? And then two, have you taken the Cox Campus Targeted Small Group Instruction course? If you haven't, that is perfectly fine. What we're doing today will complement it. It will not replace it. Excellent. I see we have teachers, support teachers, instructional coaches, quite a few others. So I'm curious if you want to put in the chat if you're an other. Tell me who you are and what your role is. Excellent. I see that Neva is finishing the coaching courses on Cox Campus. Those are excellent. They were just released not long ago. They are fantastic. Okie doke. It looks like we have quite a few people who have answered. The majority of the people in the room are teachers, which is nice. Just a little bit about me. I was a teacher for seven and a half years, if we want to be technical, then an instructional coach for 2 years. And now I support district leadership, principals, instructional coaches, and educators in my new role. Awesome. I see we have some school improvement specialists in the building, some people that I know. Hello, Cheryl. Excellent. So I'm glad to have everyone here. We're going to go ahead and move on. And what we're going to do next is a waterfall chat. And how this works is you are going to answer the question in the chat, but you will not press enter until I tell you to press enter. So you will answer the question in the chat. So you'll type your answer, and then I will have a little bit of time for people to type their responses, and then I will tell you to press enter, and we'll see all of those answers at the same time. So I want you to answer this question. What comes to mind when you hear small group instruction? What comes to mind when you hear small group instruction? Type your answer, but don't press enter yet. What comes to mind when you hear small group instruction? You can answer this question with a word, a phrase, a feeling maybe. Some of us have feelings around small group instruction. Okay, we're gonna do the countdown. When we get to 1, I'll then say go, and you will press enter. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, nice. I see data-driven instruction. I see collaborative, enjoyable, working with a small group of students. Yes, targeted instruction. Working with students and addressing their specific needs in a smaller setting based on data. Bingo, excellent. An opportunity for direct instruction, excellent. Special education, EIPs. Great, those are all the right answers of what we think about when we think of small group instruction. So I want to be a little bit honest with you. So the next slide is going to show you what I think about when I thought about small group instruction when I was a teacher sometimes. So if you're unclear of what this is, it is a 3-ring circus. And I think many of us have been there in our classrooms when we're like, you know what, we're running over here and we're doing this for 15 minutes and they're doing something else for 15 minutes and then we have to rotate. And before we know it, it just feels like a 3-ring circus. And so I had that same feeling when I was a teacher sometime. I thought, whoa, this feels really out of control. But after I went through the course on Cox Campus, after I received training from the Rollins Center and worked with my teammates, I really began to better understand what small group instruction was and how I could make it more meaningful, excuse me, both for me and the students that are in my classroom. So today, I hope that we're going to be able to walk away from here with a little bit of clarity around what small group instruction can be, and that you'll have a little bit of a deeper understanding about the materials and the methods that we can use as we go through small group instruction. So we're going to go ahead and talk about materials and methods, but some words that come to mind for me when I think about small group instruction is I love the idea of like the teacher as a reading doctor, right? As like a doctor of reading, that we have to be very diagnostic and then we are prescriptive. And it's really within that small group where we prescribe a plan of action for those students' specific needs. I also like to think about it as a way that we can be preventative, right? So we can prevent so that then we don't have to intervene. Sometimes when we think about small group instruction, we often think about remediation, right? We think about remediation, that being a time when we remediate. It can be a time where we actually accelerate. And we know with the moment that we're meeting this school year, now more than ever, accelerating students' reading growth and their proficiency is going to be important. And so I want us to think about how we can target specific skills and specific needs of students so that we can accelerate their learning. So we're going to talk about what to use and how to use it. So the next image that we're going to look at is a toolbox. And let me be very honest with you. I have owned a home for about a year, and I've learned to use tools that I never knew you had to use. And I've also learned my way around Home Depot and some other home stores. And why in the world there are 30 different kinds of screwdrivers, I will never understand, right? But what I've learned, and when I connect this to small group instruction, is I've learned that we have to have the right tool for the task. So when we think about small group instruction, having the right tool for the task is important because it helps us work effectively and efficiently. And so we are going to look at the tools that we use or the materials that we use in small groups. And the tools that we often use in targeted small group instruction will be text. And there's a lot of conversation right now around what kind of text do I use in small groups? Do I use decodable text? Do I use leveled readers? We know that there's that GR word that some of us have used before, right? For small group that we associate with it, which would be guided reading. But GR works better for me because there were moments when I was a teacher that I said grr, right? Because it just like, it made me feel like grr, this is not working and I'm frustrated because I can't see my kids moving. But then when I switched to targeted small group instruction based on skills, I noticed movement. So we're going to look at the tools that we would use within small group instruction. We're actually going to break into some breakout rooms and answer this next question. So the next question you see on the screen is, what are the benefits of using decodable text in small group instruction? And so we're going to break into 3 groups, and there are 3 different articles, one for each group. And I'm going to give you 7 minutes. So we're going to take about 7 minutes to skim these articles, and then we're going to come back and have a conversation. And so I want to encourage you to read it and then be bold when we come back, and feel free to share out your answer publicly in the group. So what are the benefits of using decodable text in small group instruction? Also, if you see anything that you're like, hey, this is really noteworthy in this article, then I want you to bring that up when we have the discussion as well. So we're going to go ahead and send you in just a minute. We're going to let a few other people in from the waiting room. But we're going to go into small groups. So there are going to be 3 groups. And when you get into your group, we will put the link in the chat for the article that you are discussing. If you understand, put yes in the chat box. So if you understand, put yes in the chat box. Okay, welcome back. That time went by quickly, I know. And so there's a chance that you probably didn't make it through the entire article that y'all were reading, but I would definitely say feel free to go back to that later. So I'm going to open the floor, and you are able to unmute yourself. And so if you'll just say, hi, my name is Gail. I'm going to pick on you because I see you right there. So hi, my name is Gail. I'm from, and here's what I was thinking. Okay. And so we're going to kind of do this open mic style. So go ahead and feel free to unmic. And what is one thing that maybe popped out of you? What is a benefit of using decodable text in small group instruction?
Hello, my name is Wanda Brasfield from Meridian, Mississippi.
Hey, Wanda, thank you.
Just coming in because of the time difference. So I'm listening and see what you are talking about.
Okay, would anyone like to share what they found in their article? What is a benefit of using decodable text in small group instruction?
So I'm Alistair from Atlanta, and our group's article talked a little bit about how a decodable text allows students to directly apply the skill that they were taught and immediately practice it. And it compared a decodable text to training wheels on a bicycle, that it's not, the end goal to be in these texts, but it's a really good way to get students comfortable with the act of reading, which I thought was a really cool comparison.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do think it is, and so it is definitely a training wheels that really gets them ready so that they can then read those authentic texts, right? It's really the preparation ground for that. Would anyone else like to share what they read or what they heard in their group? Okay, does someone else want to go?
I was just going to say that the article that I read in our group, it's kind of piggyback off of what she just said, that decodable text has them really focusing on the spelling and pronunciation, and then that kind of, they understand that to then make meaning of the text in more of the comprehension part of what you would experience like in a level text. The decodable focuses in on that spelling and pronunciation.
You are absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that with the group. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so the next thing that I want to do is I want to point you to 2 resources that are located on Cox campus. And so the first one is just a graphic organizer that describes the differences between decodable text and leveled text. And so that will help you decide which text might I use when I am with a small group. And then the next resource, which is on the next slide, goes a little bit deeper, and it also brings in like alphabet books and then controlled decodable text, which is what we're talking about when we're looking at the decodable text. And then readable leveled text are the leveled text that we are used to using with guided reading groups for the sake of comprehension. I'm not going to go deeply into this, but there is definitely a time still for us to have comprehension conversations around real text with students, right? That is not something that we're saying doesn't take place anymore. So those conversations in those groups still take place. But I would urge you to think about the process of comprehension instead of comprehension as a product. Sometimes as teachers, what we do is we say, oh, fill out this worksheet. Did they comprehend, right? But we really want to be training them in the process of comprehending, making sure that they are metacognitive thinkers as they're reading, and that they are putting all the pieces together to have the best understanding, their background knowledge, what they're reading in the text, that they're understanding strong vocabulary. So there is still a place for those texts, but we just want to make sure that we're using those as a way to guide students through the process of comprehending, so then they can do it on their own independently, versus it just becoming a ramp to a product-based activity. So that may be new for some of us to think of it that way, but I heard that recently and I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. Comprehension is a process, not a product. And so often in education, we treat it as if it's a product activity, right? So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So there are 2 key goals of beginning reading. The first one is that we want to teach students to use their knowledge of letters and sounds to decode words. And this requires practice. That's what was mentioned in the conversation earlier, and application of the skills that they're learning in phonics. And so for this, we would use decodable text. And then the other goal is to help students develop the language, the knowledge, and the literary appreciation, which makes reading productive and rewarding. And to this end, that text needs to be engaging and authentic. And so this is where we would use those predictable texts and those leveled readers. We know that decodable texts are not always engaging and thrilling, right? And sometimes I think because of that, teachers shy away from them, because the cat sat on the mat, he had to tap is not engaging, right? But it gives students the practice they need in order to be accurate and fluent readers when they move into those authentic texts. And so that practice is very, very, very important. We're going to do a little activity now. And before we move on, I want you in the chat to tell me, what level of accuracy do you think students should be able to read at to understand a text? So go ahead and put it in the chat. What level of accuracy do you think students should be able to read at in order to understand a text? Just go ahead and drop it in the chat. Okay, I see an 80%, excellent. What level of accuracy should students be able to read at in order to really understand the text and be able to read it independently? I see 75%, 75 to 80, excellent. It looks like y'all are kind of around that same area. Everyone is saying, okay, this sounds about right. Because in the public school setting, we say, hey, 80%, you're at mastery, right? And that feels kind of like mastery to a lot of us, around 75%. Well, let's test this theory. I don't know if y'all are ready for this, okay? I'm gonna give you a text. Go ahead and go to the first slide. Okay, so this is, if I take out words and this is all you can read, I want you to see what you can understand. Go ahead and take about a minute to read this. If you want to turn on your camera, I would love to see your face as you're reading this, because Gail's face is telling to me, because I think what she's saying is just with a yes or no, are you able to comprehend at 80% accuracy? Can you comprehend what you're reading right here? A yes or no? Whoop, I see someone that says, I cannot read this, right? So imagine the struggle of students if we put a text in front of them and we're only expecting 80% accuracy, right? Well, so let's try 90%. Y'all ready? Here we go, 90%. Okay, so I'm gonna ask that good question that we ask our students. What was the main idea of that passage you just read? Go ahead and type the main idea of the passage in the chat. Oh, I see that our idea is changing around our level of accuracy. Tiffany is saying, nope, no. We need 100% accuracy, right? So you're right that we need actually, okay, so Cheryl says she thinks this is about religious freedom. Neva says keywords are missing, but oftentimes we say, hey, if they just know the keywords, they'll understand the passage, right? True or false? No way, right? They have to be able to decode and then actually have meaning attached to those words that they decode, right? The keywords are missing. You're right, Neva, the keywords are missing. And so go ahead now and let's show it with 100%. Huh. The title is Diversity and Bucknell University. So take just a minute to read that, and then I'll tell you what the percentage is that they actually should be able to decode with. So even with 100% of the words there, with the knowledge that you have, this is still very dense and takes some cognitive energy, right? To actually understand what this is about. So the actual amount, the big percentage that we say for students to be able to read independently is 95%. So really that between 95 and 98%, that's that window of where we want them to be performing. And so that's why it's so important that we use our small group instruction to target those things like phonological awareness, phoneme awareness, because we know that that then helps as they're decoding. So we're focusing on those phonics skills and those decodables in a structured, systematic, explicit way in small group, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. But I just want you to make sure that we can connect this to the simple view of reading. So the simple view of reading by Goff and Tunmer is really a simple way to understand how we learn to read and how reading comprehension comes to be. So this is a multiplication problem. So the product right here, the product is reading comprehension, and the two factors are decoding, which is word recognition, and language comprehension. So the product of us being able to decode and then multiplying that with our language comprehension, meaning I can understand things just in oral language, that I have a strong grasp of language concepts, those things together lead to reading comprehension. If I can understand things and my language comprehension is high, but my decoding is weak, I will not have reading comprehension. And so both of those areas have to be addressed in our small group instruction. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to play a little this or that activity, because as we're thinking about materials that we use in small group, who has seen the eagle eye and lips the fish? Say yes if you've seen those in schools. Or stretchy snake, or try and line. You know what? If we don't know that word, try. Guess what it is, right? Go ahead and guess. Just take a guess. What about chunky monkey? Or what are some other ones? The one that says ask for help, right? The kangaroo. And so there's 1,000 different variations of these things out there, right? Teachers Pay Teachers is loaded with them. There's all kinds of different animals that are supposed to help us to read. But the truth of the matter is that most of those are teaching students guessing strategies. Skippy the Frog, you know what? If I don't know it, skip over it and try and guess it. If you were to just, if I gave you the first letter, think about this, the first letter to those passages earlier of those missing words, would that have really helped you? If I said, just start with the beginning sound and then make a guess, would that have helped you?
No.
Probably not, right? And so I'm going to urge us to move from this idea of thinking about how we can guess at words to how can we apply decoding strategies. So for the materials that we provide our students, we need to have some prompting and some prompting guides that help us when we are in our small group, when we're prompting students, and to make sure that we're helping them decode and not guess. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is one that is nice. So this is a little acronym. And so this is one that could be used with our youngest readers. So it's called PST, when I read. So the first one, the P, is point to the word and look closely at all the letters. We want them to attend to letters and letter sounds so that then they can blend the word together. Because reading is not a visual activity. We do not look at words and our brain doesn't say, huh, that word is with, and that's all. Like, it has to be orthographically mapped. So it has to take all of those sounds and the letters and put it all together over and over and over so that our brain can receive it and retrieve it quickly. The S is sound out the word as I point to the letters and then blend them together. Then say the word and then think. So you reread the sentence, does it make sense? So this is a more scientifically based, research proven way of prompting students. So it comes from Aries' alphabetic phase. And so she has all the phases of reading. That if you're not familiar with that, I would say go ahead and dig deeper into Aries' phases of reading, maybe stages. I'm sorry, I could be messing that up. But go ahead and look into that, because I think that can help guide your instruction in small group as well. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. I like this right here. So we're getting rid of guessing monster, and instead of guessing monster, we have decoding dragon, right? So if you're stuck on the animals, we've got you covered. This one's a wild one. He's decoding dragon. We want to teach our students not to guess. They're going to sound out the word all the way through to keep track with their fingers. And then when they get to bigger words, to break those long words into syllables. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of practice. So you're going to see a decodable in this next slide. And this is a decodable, a page from a decodable that I might use in a small group with a student. So if I get and I say, Mom said Seth, I would be happy to go to the vet with, and I'm stuck here. What would I do? What is a prompt that I might give to a student at this point? Would I say, take a guess? What could you say instead? Go ahead and put it in the chat. What is a prompt that you might give to a student at this point? And then I'm about to give you a resource. They've actually sound it out, right? Tap it out. All of the things that you're saying are causing them to attend to the actual decoding, right? I don't see make a guess because it starts with R. Could be ribbit or rabbit, right? Who knows? So all of those prompts, so I would say we need to change our prompting in our small groups to support students. And so that's the big idea here. There's actually a Wakelet that Yana put in the chat. And so if you want to click there and then bookmark it, Pam Kastner, she is in Pennsylvania. She actually has created a lot of Wakelets that have a wealth of information around the science of reading. And so this one is on decoding prompts and strategies that can get us away from using those things that we've traditionally used. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to break out very quickly. We're going to take about 3 minutes in breakout rooms. And I want you just to think about our conversation so far. So have a quick conversation about things that you may need to start, stop, continue, or change. So what are things in your small group instruction that you may need to start, stop, continue, and change based on what we've talked about so far? Okay, we'll take about 3 minutes and go into breakout rooms now. Okay, so it looks like everyone is getting back in the room. One of the things that I heard in the breakout room that I was in with Tiffany and Gail and Tressie. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. But they were really saying, you know what, I'm really new to teaching reading. Like I haven't heard some of this stuff before. And so I would definitely encourage you all to take the small group course on Cox campus. I think there's a lot of helpful information on there, as well as the ecosystem course, really about how to set up a language-rich classroom and to prepare the room in your classroom so that the reading brain is ready to develop. I think that's a great course. So I would recommend those two. We are going to, I just want to take a moment to recap very quickly and just tell you that the text that we chose, or the text that we choose for a group, plays a major role in training the brain and developing readers. And so if we want to develop readers who are focused on decoding and using their decoding skills, those decodable texts are really the best place to start for readers who are building their foundational skills. So thinking about what we're trying to do and then giving them the right tool that will help them later on with reading success is important. We also said in 3rd grade, if we've been using the guessing monster, right, and we're trying that, then when they take the pictures away and those passages are long, that's why we really see a dip a lot of times in the upper grades, because those strategies are no longer something that we can stand on. Students must have those decoding skills and they must have a strong word recognition. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. We're gonna move rather quickly as we keep going. And I'm going to give you some resources that will help you as you prepare to think about how to plan for small groups. So the first thing, grouping. Oftentimes we create grouping matrices, I guess you could say, where we have 4 groups, we have them for 15 minutes, and we see them every day. I want to push your thinking, and I want to encourage you to come to the assessment course next week to learn how we can assess students to identify their area of need and then to form groups based on those needs. It might be that they have a phonological awareness or a phonemic awareness skill that needs to be developed. And so you may only need to spend 10 minutes with that group. Well, then you may have a group learning vowel teams, and you may need to spend 20 minutes with that group. So I want us to kind of think about how we can be flexible with timing and not get so stuck on we need 4 groups at 15 minutes. Instead, let's be intentional about meeting students' needs where they are and using that time to do that instead of just getting through the 4 groups a day, because we can fall in that trap very easily, and that really can impact our efficiency and our effectiveness. So on Cox campus, the next slides, if you'll go ahead and go to that, there are planning templates for small groups. This right here is described in detail in the small group course. So make sure you dig into that course. This is really an overview or a snapshot of what the small group lesson would look like and how it connects to the big 5 of reading, which is from the National Reading Panel. There's an editable lesson plan template also available on Cox campus under the resources. Those resources are highlighted in the course as well. So you'll want to check those out when you go through the course. I think the course is a 1.5-hour course, but it is worth every single minute. And then if you've liked hearing my voice today, that we actually did a summer series last summer on small group training. It's called Literacy and Justice for All Town Hall, targeted small group instruction. So if you Google that, you would be able to find that as well. That was a fun panel discussion that I did with some friends of mine. Okie doke. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So we are actually going to not do this because we're running a little short on time. However, I'm going to put a link into the chat that I would encourage you to copy and then bookmark. So copy it, put it in your web browser and bookmark it. So Yana, if you could help put the link for this next video in the chat, I'm gonna let them watch that on their own. But this is an excellent example of if you're thinking, how do I move from guided reading into a small group reading lesson? Dr. Deb Glazer has provided an outline of what that can look like. I'm also going to put the link to a video that shows structured literacy in action. So I will drop that in the chat. Oh, I think you actually got it. Thank you. So I would encourage you to watch it and then really think, what do you notice and what do you wonder about this video? And I will give you my email address at the end. So if you have questions and you're like, how does this connect? Or how can I learn more about this? But as you watch the video in that link, I would think about the big 5 of reading. If we can actually skip past the video slide and then go to that next slide. So think, where did you see the big 5 in that lesson? So these are the big 5: phonological awareness, which includes phonemic awareness. So phonological awareness are those things like, how many words are there in a sentence, right? And so you say a sentence, they can tell you, or you do onset and rhyme, or rhyming. That's phonological awareness. And then the phoneme level is really the most important for creating strong readers. And so that's, am I able to segment sounds? So if I say app, the word is tap, right? Or if I say the word is fit, then could you segment that into sounds? It, right? So that's where most of the focus should be with phonemic awareness, because that really helps move quickly into both reading and writing. But I would encourage you to look for, where do you see phonemic awareness? Where do you see some comprehension? Where do you see the phonics knowledge playing out in that video? So go ahead and bookmark that, and then I would take the time to watch it, because it's an excellent example of what a structured literacy small group looks like. There's also the blog that we put in the chat. That is another resource. Deb Glazer, like I said, has the STEPS model for what a small group could look like. So I just want to give y'all some options. There are options also on Cox campus for small group instruction and what that could look like. But before we go, I want to do a little bit of some interactive play here and teach you an activity that's called Say It. You ready? Say it, tap it, map it, graph it. Say it with me. Say it, tap it, map it, graph it. And I'm actually going to put that in the chat. So it's say it, tap it, map it, graph it. And just so you know, graph it is talking about the grapheme. And the grapheme is the written letter, right? It's the graphic representation. So it's the written letter. So when we say graph it, we're writing the letter. So an activity that I would do in a small group, if I had a group of kindergartners in front of me, and y'all are gonna love this, because look, you can pull this out right here from your math supplies, right? So you can pull this out from your math supplies. I bought this on Amazon, which I told you I already have an Amazon problem, but I bought this on Amazon. It's a 10s frame magnetic, and it's whiteboard. It's a whiteboard, but you can play this activity, which is say it, tap it, map it, graph it with your students using any kind of phonics skill. So it's going to look like this. So I'm going to pretend that I'm with kindergarten, and we're going to do the word top. So say the word with me. The word is top. Okay, now let's tap it. So when we tap one finger for each sound. T, up. You'll notice that I said t, up. I didn't say p, t, up. Okay, and so what did I do? I've said it and I've tapped it. So say it, tap it. Now we're gonna map it. T, up. How many sounds did I hear? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now for each sound, I'm going to point and say the sound t, up, t, up. And it may be a little tricky on here because my camera may show this reversed, but I think you get the idea. And then I say the sound is t, what letter? And then I would say T. The sound is ah, what letter? O. The sound is p, what letter? P. And then right here, this would be, then they say sometimes zap it, then we read it quickly, top, right? Okay, so that's say it, tap it, graph it. I'm sorry, say it, tap it, map it, graph it. Okay, let's think about what this would look like if I was teaching in 2nd grade, AI says A, it would look like this. The word is paint. Say the word, paint. Let's tap the word, A, N, T, A, N, T. Okay, and now what are we going to do? So we've said it, we've tapped it. Now we're going to map it. So how many sounds were there? A, N, T. 4 sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to say it, tap it, map it, graph it. That means I'm putting the letter with the sound. So the first sound is p, what letter? Then we have that A sound, which in the middle of a word normally is spelled how? AI. AI, good. Okay, so p, A, then we have N, what letter? Good, and then T, what letter? Excellent. And so you would do this over and over and over. And so what we're doing when we do this is we're orthographically mapping the word in our brain, right? So this is how our brain learns to read. And if you want to dig deeper into that, I would say Google orthographic mapping. It's an important part of the science of reading and how kids learn to read. We can't just say, this is the word paint. What word is it? Paint, and expect kids to know it. They have to be able to attach the phonemes with the letters. And then you might even say, huh, what do you know about paint, right? And so you want to connect some kind of meaning to it because that's how our brain remembers words. Okay, orthographic mapping, yes. And so what we just did though was we did phoneme, sound, grapheme, letter mapping, phoneme, grapheme. That's what we just did, the phoneme graphing mapping, which is a little bit different than orthographic mapping, but I just want y'all to know that vocabulary. Okay, so that is one activity that you can do with all kinds of phonics skills. And so I hope that was helpful. So we are going to go ahead and we have about 2 minutes left. We're going to go ahead and move kind of quickly towards the end. But I would say for sure watch that video. It has great ideas as to how you can move in a small group. If you have not logged on to Cox Campus, please go ahead and sign up today. You will not want to miss the opportunities that are coming up on Cox Campus. We're actually in the process right now of rolling out all kinds of courses based on the science of reading over the next year. And so you will definitely not want to miss those. It's completely free, always accessible, and it's because of our awesome donors with Cox. So make sure that you log on there and get connected to our community. Don't forget that on August 5th is assessment 1. And then there's actually a typo. I think that's August 12th is assessment 2. So the assessment course will really help set you up for how do I know what to teach in small group. So just making sure that you know how to assess students and then how to use those assessments to guide instruction. So I would encourage you to jump in there and learn as much as you can about assessment and then take the small group course. and you will be ready to roll for the new school year. Okie doke. If you're interested in bringing free in-person professional development to your school, district, or center, the Cox Foundation has provided additional funding to support free in-person or virtual learning to any organization, institution, or agency in Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, or North Carolina that works with adults interacting with children ages birth through 9. So you would want to email Jen Connor, and that would be at JCONNER@foundationsinc.org to schedule your free professional learning. So if you're in those states, which that would be Maryland, North Carolina, Colorado, or Arizona, feel free to email Jen Connor at foundationsinc.org. It's jconnor@foundationsinc.org to schedule your free professional learning. So we are excited to see you again on Thursday, August 5th for assessment part 2. Feel free to pop on if you would like to Cox campus and start taking that small group course. I noticed that several people that are in here today have not done that. Also, I'd like to open it up if there are any questions before we pop off. I'm happy to stay on here and answer any questions. If you need to go, feel free. It was a pleasure being with y'all today. I hope that you found this information helpful.